Good afternoon, SquiderDragon. Sunday, which means another best of three historic video to share with you. As promised, I'm going to showcase my mono white build. It's not quite like other traditional builds in terms of the cards it's got. It runs, as you might imagine, the majority of the candidates, as we'll see, but there are some differences, some interesting two-ofs, which we'll get to. What I'm going to do is I will showcase the video first, and just talk about the build, particularly the sideboard. Sideboard is really designed to pretty much not necessarily integrate with the main features of the deck, but really just to stop or exile or just anything else that the opponent wants to do. And I've got one card in there for inevitability, which is quite expensive. So the main idea with this deck is that the main deck itself should be the one that does most of the winning, but of course the whole point of having a sideboard is what if it doesn't, or what if you're just facing something that doesn't work. So the sideboard is it's built out with a lot of, as we'll get to when I showcase this, it's built out with a lot of consistency in terms of having multiple copies of the same card, ones that I think are useful to have for particular matchups where you can stop. What I've seen with other decks in the past few weeks is if you just do not have a matchup against a deck that you're running against, it gets quite difficult, and even your sideboarding doesn't really help. So the intention with this mono white sideboard is really just to try and at least give us the tools for any deck irrespective. Whether that's as successful as I plan for it to be, it remains to be seen, because I've really just it has always had a sideboard, but I've just changed it recently prior to starting the video. The main deck itself, apart from a couple of changes which I'll mention, is how I normally run this, and have been running this since the thing was originally built some time ago, years ago in fact. So without further ado, let's get into that. It's just intro for now to set the scene, and then we can get into, first of all, showing the deck, and then I'll talk about that for a little bit, and then we'll get into the similar format. It will be two best of three matches, so we'll run both of those and see how it goes over those two matches. Let's get going later. So this is our deck. The deck is named Historic Mono White, not very original, but does what it says in the tin. Looking at the build, some of the key interesting cards, quite a lot of these decks, mono white, that you'll see online, the general ones, do run copies of Authority of the Consuls. It can be useful to get out early because it shuts down or just slows down the opponent, you know, particularly if you've got haste, etc. So, and of course, when opponent casts creatures, not only do they tap, but you gain a life, so it works in with a life game theme. Likewise, in the early, if I want some life gain going, I mean, we'll see other cards that do that. The core one, as you might expect in mono white, but I put in a couple of Healer's Hawks because they're flying, so they've got evasion. They can come out early for the 1 mana, and they go quite well with the other deck. So again, typically you've got life gainers on the ground, which I do also have, but having it in the air, in this case, and it can be quite useful, because if you run against creatures that are just running on the ground, they don't really cater for flyers. The Hawk does a good job, good addition. I run 4 copies of Leonin Vanguard. Again, very cheap to come out, but at the beginning of your turn, 3 or more creatures get +1 and you gain 1 life. So because you're gaining life, this is to keep my own life up, and of course life gain then leads to, so it's very cheap again. So the idea of this deck initially, rather than relying on more angels, for example, which you see in other builds, is to have these cheap 1/1 creatures that synergize for more life. I have Sky Marcher Aspirant as well, and that's a 3 of again. It's just because I like the fact that, you know, the Ascend, one of the reasons in here is the Ascend. I think the 2/1 is sort of decent for 1 mana, at least it's sort of, you know, again, if you're getting out early, you can attack with it. It's a 2/1. I mean, obviously with 1 toughness, it's quite fragile, but then of course the advantage with a bit like the Hawk, if you get to Ascend, then it flies, and a 2/1 flyer, again, pretty decent. A key card, and probably pretty much any mono white deck should be running a full copy of, full playset, beg your pardon, of Soul Warden, so no difference here. So in that case, it's very, very traditional. Likewise, I'm running 3 rather than 4. I've got some other cards, as you'll see, taking up some of the other slots. So again, just pared down. So this is again a typical mono white Speaker of the Heavens, something that you normally see early. And of course, the reason for having the Hawk is the Hawk, in effect, with evasion does same job, i.e. as in attacking with it and gaining life. It doesn't have the bonus that when you obviously get your life high enough, you can start creating the 4/4 angels, and that's what you traditionally see in sort of angel decks. So it's a key card that you might expect in the deck. We then go to the 2 of is the main kind of heart of the deck to make it work. Adanto Vanguard is in for different purposes. Because it's a life gain deck, putting it in is quite useful, because if it comes out early, because you know you're going to be gaining life, you can pay the 4 life. It's quite expensive to pay 4 life, but it can be useful, because when it attacks, it gets +2. So attacking again for 2 mana for a 3/1 that at least you can save, does a decent job. And that's why, again, for consistency, I've got 3 of those in the deck. Then we drop down to the more traditional life gain deck. So we've got a full playset of the Janny Primate, so clearly synergizing with any of these 1-drops that are gaining us life in different forms in the main combinations of the Leonid coming out once we get 3 creatures, which obviously with this curve happens quite regularly. Bishop of Wings, we have when we have angels, or when we're going to generate angels with our Speaker of Heavens in particular, we want the addition of the life gain. So again, it's a decent defender with 4 toughness, and whenever an angel enters, you gain 4 life, when an angel you control dies, create a 1/1 spirit with flying. So again, the flying and evasion theme to have bishops of wings. But as you say, I only really run one, so I'm not really running this as an angel deck or maxed out with angels, where the bishop of wings would be a little bit more useful. But I think it's a decent addition just because it's cheap to come out, so it synergizes with the early play. And when we get to the angel stage, and I do have a few angels, not many, but not as many as you might expect, but that will synergize quite nicely. And another, which is in some ways a better alternative to the Ajani Pridemate, is Voices of the Blessed, a 2/2 again, but when you gain life +1, really want to maximize our life gain, because once it gets more and more counters, it becomes more and more powerful. You know, the vigilance and then the indestructible ultimately. So it's 10 or more. If it's 4 or more, it has flying. Didn't take that long to get it to flying. And then 10 or more, it's indestructible. So that gets pretty OP. So this is another traditional, the mythic. Waiting for the devotion is less than 5, so it can take a bit of time to come out, but there's other cards in this slot, as you'll see, that will have the higher mana devotion, so it works quite well. Starting with, in this slot, we've got the Resplendent Angel, double white, so that into devotion. And again, once we get to a certain turn, if we gain 5 or more life, we create the 4/4. So it's doing a similar job to our Speaker of the Heavens. Again, another pretty much, again, I've only got a singleton here. Likewise with a Steadfast Queen. Again, useful because gaining life with all these cheap creatures when you have Linden out can get pretty OP, as you might imagine. And she helps with the devotion for supporting Heliod, Sun Crowned. I know we're running a lot of creatures, and typically if I go up against creature decks, what I've done is I've hidden, for the want of a better word, a couple of Settle the Wreckage, which I think in this, when people see the life gain decks, they might have expected Authority of the Councils to slow them down, but not many people, people that are good players that know and play against white, and then particularly with having 4 mana up, are probably aware of Settle the Wreckage, but of course that does us a favour if it prevents them from attacking, whereas we want to get on with the business of gaining our life and getting closer to the win. This is a recent change. Until recently, I had the angel, which allows you to, with the double striker, I think it's a 3/5, which allows you to win the game, and once you get above a certain amount of life, I think it's okay, but I just, for the same amount of mana, and we're lifelink protection and flying, I think the Baneslayer Angel is the 2 of. This is a recent change I've made, so this is going to be the first time I'm actually running this main deck version with the change of the Baneslayer Angels. Otherwise, the rest of the deck is as you see now. If we look at the sideboard quickly, you'll see, as I said in the intro, I'm really just packing the sideboard out with pretty much consistency of removal, board wipes, or banishing light, or early creature shutdown with pacifism. So I run 3 pacifisms. Although the Conclave Tribunal banishing light does a similar job, it's obviously there's more mana, but because all I really want to do is shut down permanents. I don't want sometimes I don't want my removal. Pacifism obviously is being cast on a creature, which is fine for creature decks, but of course the Banishing Lights and the Tribunals just lock down anything. It's a permanent. It locks down an exile, a target non-land permanent. So the idea of the sideboard, and this should hopefully, this particular build and the fact that I've got consistency in here should really allow me to sideboard in with some consistency. And the final one in the sideboard, which would come in, you know, if I am sideboarding and I'm going to go down that route, is putting in a singleton copy. So again, the idea would just be stall long enough to get Avacyn out, the 8/8 flying indestructible. So that's the deck. So we will go and run into our best of threes and see how this goes. And I said, as per usual in this format, I'll run 2 best of 3 matches with this particular deck. So let's dial that up. Change our deck. It's historic play. We want best of 3, and I want to be running this mono blue historic white deck. So let's get started and see how we go. I'm looking forward to Frontier when it comes out. I think that'll be useful, and I've saved gold and that, so I'll probably cash in quite a bulk of that gold when that set comes out. So it'll be interesting. I should get a good collection going, and I'm looking forward to playing that more than I have in any other set that's been coming up. It just it's more like traditional Magic, if that makes sense. So let's see who's on the play. This deck doesn't normally care that much. It doesn't care to have a necessarily fast start, but you know, it's as long as our hand has a decent number. What we're really looking for is, within our first few turns, is getting the life gain mechanism going. So we have that here with having the Blessed as our life gain target, and we've got the console to give us the life to power it up, and then we've got the Adanto Vanguard. So I'm going to keep this because, you know, the mana's pretty decent as well. I didn't mention this because of the nature of the low curve, particularly at the beginning of the deck. I only run 22 white lands, goes to 24, and here we've got, so that'll be I'll put my authority out because it's going to be a mill deck. It shouldn't hurt us over much, I don't think. I'm going to come out with a couple of, particularly I'll bring the Vanguard out, and then when it attacks the 3, that starts doing quite a lot of early damage. If the crab wants to block it, so be it. So yeah, we're doing a, and okay, here's common. So we've got our targets, or we will have our targets for. So what I will do, and again, this is the idea of having cheap creatures. That gives me my life gain, and this gives me, at least when I attack, we've got the crab, which is a good defender. So our idea will be to ramp up the Voice of the Blessed fairly as quick as we can. Okay, this is a aggro. Well, it's going to work or not, we'll find out. So I'm going to use Voice of the Blessed. We'll attack with all. He's obviously going to block. He'll block the 2-1 if he's clever. But now we have our life gain going. Yeah, so we got turbo mill going on, which is fine. So we'll see. Doesn't really hurt, you can see it doesn't really hurt the deck that much. I mean, there are cards coming out, but we have, with the creatures that we've got out, we've got a decent enough engine that will start ramping up the Voice of the Blessed quite quickly. That's going to be an advantage. So it starts now. So you can see the idea of putting the Sky March in has now got the and we'll attack with all again. So he's only got the crab down. So again he's going to block, but that's just going to, all that does. But this is the idea with all this power in the board. Into the story. Does he mill us out in time? Does he find his answer, what he needs? Glimpse the unthinkable. 10 cards, is that going to be enough? Doesn't look like it. Huh. I think that was enough, was it? Yeah. Okay, so we know what we're sideboarding in. I need to ensure Banishing Light and Conclave Tribunals. If we go early, I will put Avacyn in, and then we will take out. It's quite good with this deck because Settle the Wreckage obviously is null and void. Bishop can come out. What I want to do is leave enough so I can trim out, so we're down to 64. I'll leave in, I need to leave enough of the of our life gain stuff in. Let me take out Linden, I think. Remove, and maybe the Angel. We've taken, I thought I took those out. So we want to take the Settles out, of course. So that's 60 cards. Banishing Light, we're done. Let's see. We're done. We need to be careful with the mulligan because we want, so I will draw first, I think. I've got a Banishing Light and I've got Conclave Tribunal, so that should be sufficient to stop some of the early stuff. He's going to be what I'm expecting. It's interesting to see, he knows what I'm playing, so well, interesting to see how he's done his changes. But I'm going, for now I'm going to keep Okay, so turn 1, so it's going the same way, which is fine, because again we will have an early play, and then we've got the banishing light to take care of the crab if that. Oh, you've got, okay, double crab. It's fine. Again. Less worried about that. I'm going to use the Pride Mate. The Pride Mate does the same job better than the, and I don't have to spend life on it. And then we're going to have the mana to get rid of both the crabs. Okay. Right, so let's get rid of one of the crabs. And attack in for the other. Despite running 22 lands, we still are getting mana just because of the way the curve works. And let's tie up the other one. Oh, auto pay, it's fine. Okay, that's why, that's fine. So we can go again. Put the screws on. Just wait for the rope. You can see the idea of the deck. I mean, because the curve in it is so low to the ground creatures, all based around life gain. It can recover from removal, even at times board wipes, although obviously it's a bigger blowout with a board wipe, but running this, it can end up being fast enough. And this is just time wasting from the opponent. Okay. Resolve all. No, that I didn't understand. That I didn't understand. So, what was that? Okay. It's a loss. We don't worry about it over much, but I'm surprised that he managed to mill me out just with that one card. Okay, on to the second one. I would need to look back on the video of that with that card, but yeah, Turbo Mill. So our plan appeared to work for sideboarding, but he got to the point where, so let's go for the second and hope we do not face another mill deck. But as I said, I'm still surprised that we didn't have the right tools for the mill, but as I said, I'll need to look back. Okay. Notorious MTG. What's notorious about him, we'll find out maybe. Your opponent's choosing which player will go first. Okay, there's our traditional start, which is fine. Keep 7. We've got the Baneslayer as a later play. We've got Angel. We've got decent mana because of our curve. 2 planes is enough to get started. And 3rd planes gets us our Angel, which is handy. Thoughtseize. Probably the Soul Warden. Which is why the Leon and Vanguard is... Oh no, Baneslayer. It's a surprising choice. Another thought. Okay, it's hand hate. So what does he go for this time? And he went for the Angel. This is fine. So our build at this stage is going to be handy just because the cards that we have. And you'll see the synergy with the Leon and Vanguard and why that can be useful. Okay, it's a fatal push, fine. So we will aha! We see what he's on a pretty slow clock. Yeah, pretty slow clock for him. Fast for me, slow for him. That's not going to work, I'm afraid. activate. Oh, it's exiled, isn't it? It gets exiled rather than... Gone. I don't think we need too many changes. Because he's running the fatal pushes, I could probably afford to, and he's got sacrifice, so we probably want to have the ability to get rid of enchantments, possibly, so we'll take the banishing lights. Remove the settles. So what are we down to? One more change. Not that much, I don't think, in the way of change. Baneslayer. Yeah, maybe. We'll move one of the Baneslayers, leave one in. One should be enough if it, with what he's playing. Let's see how he's decided to sideboard. Notorious MTG. Notorious for what, I wonder? It looks like running sacrifice decks. Demir. Okay. Yeah, we know he's got push in that, and our mana again. I'll keep all the mana for now. I could have mulliganed that, but I'm happy to get an early start in the air with the hawk, just start to chip away the life, and then at least we've got a mechanism for the life gain when we draw into that. Yeah, I'll get this online now, just in case he's got an early push. Okay, Baneslayer, fine, even though there's only one of them. We've got the Baneslayer, which is good. No blocks. least I'm raising them now for damage. And I've got the mana to bring the Baneslayer Angel online in the air. Still no blocks. If I need to, I can use the ice. I don't think I'm going to need to be honest. I'll lose 2 of that, it's fine. Just to attack with a Baneslayer, obviously. Need 2 other blockers. Wow. Okay. So we need to go back to our plan of bringing in this removal for these damned enchantments. Okay. Baneslayer can stay 63 again, so not too much more to lose. Again, drop. We need to get rid of the, just in case our mana stalls. What else? Probably the bishop wings. I'll take out, get down to 61. shave. Right, so we're down to 60. Let's go. So one apiece. I will play first. Okay. Let's try and run this in the traditional version. Okay. So push one of that, that's fine. That is perfectly fine. What we needed. Too slow. Too slow. Too slow, son. Particularly bringing the second one in. Yep. Okay. Yes, we had some fun in that one. So, decent showing, I think, for my mono white, which I'm pleased about. You can see what the deck's trying to do. The mill Turbo Mill, I'll look back, as I said, just, I suppose it was when you have that enchantment, you know, like when you mill for untapping, that's pretty nasty. At the time, I don't think I had the tools. I mean, I put in, I think, the right sideboard cards. But that was it. That was this week's Historic. Next week, as I said, I will showcase this hand hate, which I think, with that first deck in particular, maybe with the second one, but with that first deck or first match, that would have been much more useful, because I could have moved some of those key cards with the hand hate. And as I said, I want to do a little bit more work in that. I think in advance of that, I'm quite happy with it, but I'll do some work in that in the week, and that will be showcased next week. So again, hope you enjoyed this one. I'll do another quick outro, but for now, thanks for watching. SquiderDragon. So that was my historic mono white best of 3 deck. I think when I built this deck, and there's a lot of these decks I've had for a long time, but you know, putting in the sideboard to run the historic best of 3 in a lot of cases was done after the sideboards were added after, and of course it's always a difficult choice of what you put in the sideboard, whether you're trying to just augment what the existing deck does, but you're more trying to look at what the opponent might be doing. So I think with the decks that we faced, and you know, this is a deck I use quite a lot anyway, with the changes I've made, when I do quests, I mean, when I've been running the standard quest to get the grinding, the daily grind, I have been using, I went through a period of, because I was playing the best of 3, it's just to run best of 3 matches, you know, the argument was why not, because, you know, obviously, like, but where I'm really just running a quest as such, rather than doing that, sometimes it was more efficient to just run single versions. So again, the mono whites, from a quest point of view, it depends on the quest, but typically if you get quests which are cast, you know, a lot of creatures, you know, you get creature quests, stupid like cast 30 creatures, something like that, that's a good deck to use, just because there's a lot of, you can see the curve is pretty low, so you can get cast a lot of creatures out pretty quickly. So typically you could probably go through about maybe 2, at most 2 to 3 games and complete that type of quest. So yeah, there's similar ideas. There's something I think I'll talk about because I do a lot of just free to play stuff, and then just do these daily quests. I do have certain decks that have been built to match some of the requirements, like kill creature decks, for example, where I've got a Rakdos deck for that, or attack, and you know, my Death Touch deck does pretty well with that, because, you know, bring out creatures attack. I mean, you may as well bring creatures out with Death Touch, so that when you're, you know, if the quest is attacking with them, that tends to work quite well. You know, it's just, so there are some strategies. The quests that I dislike are typically the ones that are land, you know, cast X land, and that might seem a bit odd, because you're always casting land to get, but you know, sometimes, you know, the land count can be quite high, and so I don't often, you know, I tend to find 7, there is a trade-off currently going on with Magic with best of, with the quests that we're on, so the difference sometimes between a 750 quest, i.e. an extra 250 gold, and a 500 quest, I can't think. Sometimes oddly the 750 quests are probably less valuable, or they're less efficient from a time point of view, if that makes sense. So that's kind of something I'm playing through. So quite often the 750, I'll look at it, how much effort's involved in it, and maybe re-roll it just to get a faster completion, if that makes sense. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this continuing Best of 3 series, and I do appreciate that it's one of the small minority that of friends that are on the No Goblins Allowed that probably watch, but I do appreciate it, and I just hope you enjoy watching the matches. Until next time, this is SquiderDragon. Bye.